Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome and welcome back to Cafe Oleh. My name is Jay. Excuse me. Here at Cafe Oleh with Nefesh B'Nefesh, we go over the everyday Hebrew you need here in Israel to succeed. Whether that's reading and paying your bills, going grocery shopping and reading nutritional labels, keeping up with the news, striking up a conversation, flirting, dating, job interviewing, complaining, all the everyday things you do in your native language, in your country of origin, but here in Israel and modern Hebrew. As always, love to hear from you what topics you'd like us to cover. You can always be in touch with us by email. You can email us at hebrew@nbn.org.il. If you're joining us live on Zoom, you can write to us in the chat with any questions, comments, concerns, and requests for topics. We'll look over that after class on the chat transcript. If you're joining us live on Zoom, the Q&A is meant for questions regarding our specific class that's about to start. You can also see all of our previous lessons on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, type in Cafe Oleh. The very first entry result, rather, will be our link to our playlist. We have over 150 videos, 24,000 views. We've covered so many different topics, and we have so many yet to cover again or for the first time ever. You can also leave us a comment there. You can also subscribe to us through the Nefesh B'Nefesh channel there to get all the latest updates on our classes. With that, let's get started with today's class. Like I said, if you're joining us live on Zoom, you can write in the Q&A with any questions you have. And this is one of my favorite topics, I know one of yours, which is media literacy, or in other words, how to read the news in Hebrew at even the most beginner level. Because frankly, news happens fast here. Things develop very quickly here, and often there's a gigantic lag. And gigantic is an understatement between what is covered in English and what's covered in Hebrew, because what's covered in Hebrew is for immediate consumption by a local audience. What's covered by English is often for consumption for a broad audience that doesn't necessarily have to do with today's immediate stuff. So, for example, the greatest example I can think of, especially as someone who doesn't drive, traffic reports. You are never going to get a traffic report on certain English language media that comes from Israel. The top three newspapers, anywhere else, even online news. Why? It's not relevant if you're reading the news about Israel from North America or Western Europe or anywhere else in the world. Why do you need to know about the traffic patterns and the traffic report in Tel Aviv? You don't. But if you live in Israel and you understand how the traffic works and the highways and how they go through Tel Aviv, you kind of have to know these things. That's why we focus a lot on this, not as just a means of improving your Hebrew, but understanding you are a part of Israel now, not a Jewish community, in addition to a Jewish community perhaps abroad, but you're in Israel. You need to know what's happening here. And here is a much more micro thing than perhaps you've ever been exposed to outside of the country until you move here, make Aliyah. Or even if you're not, how to access what's happening here. With that, we're going to look specifically at financial news today. We're going to look at it a little differently than we have in the past. Instead of going through a whole regular newspaper and looking at the headline and the subheadline and all the different words, which we've done multiple times and we're going to continue to do, we're going to look at a very practical guide that has been popped up because of what's happening right now in Israel. We're first going to listen to it from one of our favorite news resources, which is called Chadshon, and I'll explain what that is again. We're going to go to one of Israel's most popular news channels for more information and literally just watch the news. And there was a financial report about 15 minutes ago. There's a brand new app. Obviously, I had 15 minutes. I couldn't put it into a class. But those of you who joined me on Wednesday's Cafe Oleh Conversations, I'm really excited to share this app with you. I'll tell you a little bit about it, as well as our conversations class at the top of the hour. Answer your questions then, as well as next week's class. So let's get started. As always, I'm going to share, we only have a little bit of vocabulary this week. And we're actually going to start with that because I want to show you two very good applications of it, practical applications of why we focus on what we do and how you can quickly understand it. So as I mentioned last week, this week we're going to talk about financial news because if you are in Israel, whether as a tourist or more importantly as a resident, you should know that effective as of 5 days ago, we have a significant increase in Yokel Michya. Yoker Mechia, we normally translate as cost of living, but that's actually wrong. Yoker Mechia really means the rising cost of living. Why? Because Yoker Mechia, as always, are Hebrews in the middle, transliteration on the right, English on the left, any notes as well on the other side. Under those as well as we go. Yoker Mechia really means the driving cost or the upward cost of living. Why? Because yoker comes from the word yakar. Yakar means dear, but it also means expensive. Right? And michya comes from the verb lichiot, or a word you probably all know, chaim, life. Right? And so as a result, sorry, just 1 second. Chaim means life, right? So the cost of living, yoker michya, is a really important term that we use a lot in Israel to talk about the cost of everyday things, right? And that's a very important thing. And I hate to play this card again. This is a big difference between people who are here visiting or even who live here a little bit of the year versus all year round. Because when you're not here on a trip, you're not here as a tourist, you're living here, you have to deal with everyday expenses that perhaps are different than when you're on vacation. Yoker Mechia really explains that very well for people, especially because as of what happened, which we're going to read in just a second, but some words we need before that. First is the verb lehit yakir. Lehit yakir comes from our same root yakar, expensive. Lehit yakir means to get or become expensive. Okay? What we're calling all of this is not just gal shel hityakut, which we're about to see in a second, a wave of things becoming expensive, but also gzerot. Right? It's not just that in Israel right now things are getting expensive, it's also that we have gzerot. Gzerot can mean both decrees, but in this case it means cuts or cutbacks. Gzerot comes from the verb ligzor. Ligzor is to cut with scissors, to cut something, usually fabric, right? Gzerot are cuts or cutbacks. And what's happening right now in Israel is not just an increase in prices, but also cutbacks in certain subsidies, certain tax breaks that people have that are adding to the yoker michya that is going up. Okay. We're going to look at some of those in a minute. I'm giving you the vocabulary because we're going to look at a couple different websites that help explain what's going on, and they're going to use this same words again and again. So even if you don't memorize these, and I promise you're going to get a copy of this spreadsheet like you get with all of our spreadsheets, along with the recording of this video, I want you at least to be familiar with some of the words we're going to look at. Hotzaot. Hotzaot is a word, anyone who has a meshek bait in Israel, meaning that they have a household income, they have household expenses, is a word to know. Hotzaot are expenses. The opposite of hotzaot, which I didn't put here, are achnasot. Achnasa is income. Hotza'ah is an expense. Achnasa comes from the verb lachnis, to enter, to cause something to enter. And hotza'ot comes from the verb lahotzi, to go out. Right? Same root, by the way, as latzet, yetziah, to leave, and exit. Lahotzi is to cause something to leave. Hotzaot, expenses. Okay? Shana and shnati. These are general words you're going to see again and again in the two articles we're going to look at in a second. Shana simply means a year. Shnati we've talked about before. When you add a yud to the end of a word, especially a noun, you can often create an adjective. In this case, from shana, year, we get shnati, yearly or annual. Same thing in Hebrew. Shnati means both yearly and annual. Ma'am is a very important term that you're going to have to understand very quickly if you don't already. Ma'am stands for Mas Erech Musaf. Mas is tax, Erech is value, and Musaf is added. Okay, put that all together. Mas Erech Musaf, or abbreviated as Ma'am, you'll see everywhere in Israel, means VAT, value added tax. Right? In Israel, we now have, as of January 1st, a blanket VAT that is 18%. 6 days ago, it was 17%. Now it is 18%. Okay, that's a very important distinction. And why we're talking about Yokem Michya, this is a major reason why. Ma'am is now set at 18%. That applies to almost all things in Israel with some significant exceptions, which I'll go through in a second. Liknot and kniot, also important when you're talking about money and expenses and things like that. Liknot means to buy, kniot, shopping or purchases. And then finally, no less important when we're talking about expenses, cheshbon and cheshbonot. Cheshbonot is the plural of cheshbon, a masculine word, which means bill, right? It means the bill, whether it's in a restaurant, you're asking for the bill, cheshbon baksha, or a bill like your water bill, or your electricity bill, or your municipal tax bill, al-nona, right? All those things, cheshbon or cheshbonot. Why are these important? We're going to look and listen to the news from one of your favorite resources and mine. And of course, we will share all these links. Save yourself the typing, folks. I'm going to share all these links with you in the summary. You don't need to ask for them. I'm going to send them to you. I actually need to share this again so you can hear the volume. Sorry, just 1 second. Share sound. Right. Is Chadshon. We talked about Chadshon several weeks ago. Chadshon is the website created by Misrad HaChinuch, the Israeli Ministry of Education, for adult learners of Hebrew, meaning that every day there's a daily digest of the news headlines, and that's also narrated in a very slow tone and slow tempo, specifically, slow tempo, so that you can follow along. Because if you listen to the news on channel 12 or 11 or 13 or 14 or wherever you listen, they're going to speak fast. They're going to speak at a normal rate in Hebrew. Here, you're going to hear them speak very slowly, and they're going to use a lot of the words we just went through. I'm still going to explain these words, and then we're going to look at another great resource from another news source. But this is Misrad HaChinuch called Chadshon, hadshon.edu.gov.il. Don't worry, send you this website as well. We're going to listen to it together. I'm going to try to highlight along the way so you can follow along with the text, and then we're going to translate together.
גל של התייקרויות. ישראל מתייקרת. בשנת 2025 נשלם יותר מיסים ונשלם יותר על כל מה שאנחנו קונים. החל מהיום, מס ערך מוסף עולה ל-18%. מהיום מתייקרים המים, החשמל, הארנונה, דמי הביטוח הלאומי, הדלק ומחירים של מוצרים רבים. התחבורה הציבורית צפויה להתייקר בהמשך השנה.
Okay, what is she talking about? Gal shel hityakruyot. So first off, gal is a wave, like in the ocean or sea, gal, a wave of hityakruyot. Hityakruyot is the verbal noun of our verb lehityakel. If lehityakel means to get or become expensive, this is the act of something becoming expensive. So a wave of rising prices. Okay? Yisrael mityakeret. Okay? Israel is getting more expensive. Bishnat Bishnat 2025, in 2025, Nishalem yoter misim. First off, let's start there. Sorry. Nishalem yoter misim. We will pay Nishalem yoter, more, misim, taxes. V'nishalem yoter, and we'll pay more, al kol ma she'anachnu konim, on everything that we buy. Why? Achel mehayom, this was written on January 1st. Achel mehayom, hama'am, and she even said the whole thing out, mas erech musaf, oleh le-18%. VAT rises to 18%. Okay. Mehayom, from today, January 1st, mityakrim, the following things get more expensive. Hamayim, your water bill. Hachashmal, electricity. Arnona, your municipal tax. Dmei bituach leumi, the amount that you pay into national insurance. Hadelek, gas, at the gas or petrol, depending on what country you're from. ומחירים של מוצרים רבים, and the prices of many מוצרים, products. Okay, many products. התחבורה הציבורית, the public transportation, צפויה, is expected להתייקר, to get more expensive, בהמשך השנה, through in the course of the year. Okay, what does this all mean? Right? How do I understand all those different things? Well, there have been some, to their credit, some English coverage of this, but I want to show you a great infographic I came across from the news site, the website of Channel 12, which is Israel's most popular nightly news and in general most watched. Please don't come after me in the comments. There are objective ratings agencies in Israel that prove that. We don't need to get into an ideological thing. This isn't about ideology. It's about following the news and trying to save you some money, because as you saw, things are getting expensive. With that, I want to share this with you. So this is an interactive infogram from Channel 12 News to try to explain, right, what's happening here. And it says here, Gzerot Achad B'Yanuar, the cutbacks of the 1st of January, 2025. Kama ze, sorry, just share this again. Something off that. Kama ze ya'aleh lemishpacha shelachem. How much will all of these gzerot, these cutbacks that we just read about, actually cost you? And let's get some numbers behind them. So what it says here is, this next line in blue in the middle, התוספת בשקלים להוצאה השנתית. The additive, the tosefet, the addition, bishkalim, in shekels, lehotza'ah hashnatit, for your yearly expenses, right? Hotza'ah, expense, shnatit is the feminine version of shnati, annual or yearly. Okay? Lefi tachazit, tachazit le-2025, according to the forecast for 2025, and now you have 4 different options here. It's in very small letters. I'm sorry for that, but you'll be able to see this because, of course, we'll share the link with you. It says ravak. Ravak means someone who lives by themselves, single. Zug plus shtaim, right? A couple, zug, that has that's at least 2 people in their household, meaning that they could also have children, right? But it's at least 2 people. Zug shalosh plus veyoter, more than 1 child in addition to a couple, and memutza shel kol hamishpachot, the average of all families in Israel. So you can hover between these two and you'll see that the prices change. But let's start with what the actual things are covered here. First, we'll start actually with memutza, because the memutza, we're trying to cover as many people as possible, regardless of your own status in Israel. The first one says, lekniot basuper, aliyah shel 15%. Lekniot, for purchases, basuper, super stands for supermarket, in the supermarket, right? Aliyah, aliyah is not just making aliyah, it also means an increase, a rise, shel 15%, right? According to the figures they've calculated, and we'll look at who their sources are in a little bit, that there's an average rise of 15% in your grocery bills expected. That amounts to, okay, that number up here with the plus sign, that means that annually, one should expect an increase of 4,696 shekels spent on groceries you otherwise wouldn't have spent. It's not that you're buying more groceries, it's that you're paying more for groceries, is what it's saying, right? Aliyah shel 15%. Okay? That number will obviously change depending on your status. If you're single, they're saying that's only 1,715 shekel. If you're a couple, 6,559. If you are more than, if you have a household with many kids, 8,705, but this is considered the average, 4,696. Let's look at the next one. Le'ochel bachutz, right? It's important, folks. It does not say le'echol bachutz. It says le'ochel bachutz. for food outside, meaning that you ordered food out. It's not saying for eating out, because it could also be delivery. It could be takeaway. It could be pickup, whatever it is. It's food that's pre-packaged and pre-delivered and pre-made for you. You're not cooking it, right? One should expect on average, memutza, on average, shel kol hamishpachot, of all families, to pay an extra 2,518 shekel throughout the year. For the whole year, excuse me, in addition to the year. לחשבון הארנונה, עלייה של 5.20%. For your Arnona bill, an increase of 5.2%, which amounts to, on average, 226 shekel. Now, obviously, Arnona, we've talked about this before, when we've gone through an Arnona bill, right? That very much, that has a lot of factors in it. That depends on which municipality you live in, and how big your home is, and how many people live in it. That being said, this is the average someone is expected. The Arnona I pay in Tel Aviv as a single person is very different than if you live in Beit Shemesh in a detached home with several children, or you live in Carmiel or Beersheba or anywhere else in the country. This is the national average. Okay. L'chashbon hachashmal, the next one, for your electricity bill, an aliyah shel 3.5%. Right? This is important. This average may be different for what you actually have to pay, but this aliyah, just like we saw for Arnona, is also the same for Chashmal, meaning everyone's bill for Arnona and for Chashmal is going to go up. Aliyah of 5.2% for your Arnona, increase of 5.2% for your Arnona, and an increase of 3.5% for your electricity bill. Very important, especially as it's still winter. You need to stay warm. You need to heat water. If it's raining outside, we've talked about that before, right? An increase there. We're still looking at the average, right? Tishim v'sheva, that amounts to, 209 shekel extra for the year. 97 extra shekel for bigud vehan'ala. You can figure out sort of what this bigud and han'ala is based on the icon over here. Bigud is clothing. Han'ala is footwear. Okay. On average, 179 shekel for chinuch, for education. 814 לתחבורה ציבורית, עלייה של 30%. Remember, it said in that news report that the increase in price for תחבורה ציבורית is expected, צפויה בהמשך השנה. It's expected during the course of the year. It has currently been delayed until April, if I'm not mistaken, April or May, but it's set to go up exponentially, 30%, right? That amounts to on average, that raises to 814 shekel for the year. Hotzaot rechev, expenses for a rechev, a vehicle, for example, delek, gas or petrol, chanaya, parking, ukvishe agra, and for toll roads, right? In Israel, we have several toll roads. You need to pay for them. The increase in price is expected to be on average 160 shekel, for that it's relevant. And finally, also going up is cheshbon hamayim, 60 shekel. Okay. It says down here, where are these from? החישוב נעשה לאחר העלייה של 1% במע"מ. The calculations were done after the increase of 1% in VAT. בתחבורה הציבורית, עליית המחירים נדחתה לחודש אפריל. Exactly as we just talked about. In public transportation, an increase of prices has been delayed until April. And the source of all this is Nituach Rise-Up, La'aliyot HaMechirim B'Shuk. Rise-Up is a startup firm that calculates the costs of different things and tries to give you also home expense reports and business expense reports. La'aliyot HaMechirim B'Shuk, right? A Nituach is a analysis. The name of the company is Rise Up. The aliyot is the plural of aliyah, increase. Hamechirim, of prices, bashuk, in the market. Okay, this is a great way to just see the general increase based on average, taking the average of a single person, a couple, with kids, and the average for the whole country. Of course, these prices are going to be different. What you need to focus on, folks, are these percentages, because those percentages are the ones that are standard for everyone. I'm going to show you another article before I talk about this app that literally just came up, because again, the news breaks very fast here. Let me see if I can pull it up. Just saw it. There it is. Okay. This website, this is Israel's premier financial newspaper. Israel has 3 financial newspapers. They all have English versions. The English version, however, can vary significantly based on all of them. What we're looking at right now is Globes. Globes is the, as you see from the color scheme it has, it models itself after the British Financial Times. One of the older ones, one of the more prestigious ones. It has an English section. It does a decent coverage of the Israeli market on every aspect. Other ones don't. Other ones only focus on high tech, and they're not looking at internal issues so much, right? But this is a great one. Why? Because it's talking about gzerot mikol hakivunim, cuts from all directions. Ma mityaker, what's getting expensive? ב-2025 ובכמה. What is getting more expensive in 2025 and by how much, right? All these words we just learned. Financial newspaper, you just learned most of these words already. And this one is great because, again, it does it in graphics. So if you scroll down, you don't need to know a lot of Hebrew to understand this website. Why? Or at least this article. It's going to give you a little emoji, a little image. It's going to give you the title of what it's talking about, and then it's going to tell you how much. In this case, you couldn't tell from the light bulb. It says chashmal. Chashmal is electricity. It's telling you plus 3.8%, meaning your electricity bill, regardless of where you live and regardless how much you consume, because we have basically one electric company in Israel, Chevrat HaChashmal, the electric company, is going up by 3.8%, right? That's what this all means. Electricity, Chashmal, plus 3.8, your electricity is going up 3.8%. If you were to read all this, it would tell you exactly that, right? That it's going up by 3.8%. Here's the word again, okay? And then it goes and explains why. Great resource. Of course, we'll send you this article so you can read along. It's a great one to understand all the different things. Arnona, right? Arnona is your municipal tax. It talks about how it's factored in this article, but all you need to know, 5.3%, right? That is what it's going up. Bituach Leumi, this is also a very important one that wasn't covered in the previous one. Bituach Leumi, your national insurance payment is going up by 1.2%. Okay. Again, this whole thing will explain it in financial terms. We neither have the time nor you're going to be able to go on this on your own. I just want to be able to show you, just like we've done in the past, where we look at a headline and a subheadline, the things you want to look at and the things you want to pass over. If national insurance is important for you to understand how much you're paying, and by the way, it is, because remember, we have universal health care in Israel. This covers a lot of other things. This covers injuries and all sorts of other things. You want to know what you're paying there. Another important one that wasn't covered in the 2 previous articles we saw. You see a car with a lightning bolt? Electric cars. Mas kniya al rechev chashmali. Purchase tax on an electric car. Up till now, Israel has pretty much incentivized people to buy electric cars by limiting the extra taxation on them, if any. What is this article saying? As of January 1st, there is now 10% tax on electric cars purchases. Okay? Or at least an increase of 10%. Sorry, increase of 10%. We already went through this one, Ma'am. Ma'am goes up by 1% to 18% altogether. Let me just make sure that they're, yeah. And finally, point plus 2% on what they call Mas Yasaf. Mas Yasaf is more, as it says here, Mas Yasaf HaMechuneh Gam Mas Hashirim. This is known as the rich person's tax. This is 2% additional tax on those with passive income, meaning if you are making where is the total amount you need to make here? I forget what it is. It's something like, here it is. If you have more than 721,560 shekel in passive income, meaning investments, interest, stocks, whatever it may be, you're going to be paying an extra 2% on that. This is not active income, right? And they want to make that very clear. It says here, humutal ach verak, only, absolutely only al hachnasot mehon. It's only on income mehon, from capital, meaning meribit, vehashkaot, from interest and from investments, velo me'avoda o me'esek, and not from work or business. Meaning, if you make 721,560 or more shekel a year in income, meaning you work for that and you make it, that 2% additional tax is not relevant. This is only on investments. Okay, all of this to say, prices are going up. How do we save? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in Wednesday's class. And I see we have a bunch of questions, so I'm going to stop here, but I want to give you two things. One, as I was watching the financial news tonight, they literally, as I was getting ready for class, talked about a new app, and I'm going to share more with it on Wednesday once I've been able to explore it and share it with you. It's called Snaplist. At least it's available on Google Play. I think it's also available on Apple. Snaplist, what it does is you put in where you are, where it geolocates you in Israel, and it will do a price comparison of the local supermarkets near you, not only in general what they have to offer for sale and comparative pricing, but you can upload your own shopping list and it will tell you where to get the best deal. Why? Because that 1% ma'am increase, that 1% increase in VAT that we just read about is going to at some point trickle down into everyday prices. There are some supermarkets that said we're going to hold off on making our prices go up to compensate for that. There are some who've already changed their prices. There's all sorts of things going on. It's quickly moving news, which is why we again talk about it in Hebrew. But an app like this might save you money. In Wednesday's Cafe Oleh conversations, we're going to take all of this information and we're going to, in your breakout rooms, talk about how to save money. We're also, if you want to, and again, we try to emphasize having a civil conversation about the news, you can have a conversation about why is it getting expensive? There are many different factors involved, but it's both micro and macro. We'll leave the economics for you to discuss in your small groups on Wednesday. But as a reminder, we invite all of you, all 343 of you, which is absolutely amazing, to join us on Wednesdays for our Cafe Oleh conversations, where you'll be able to take what we did today, we turn it into conversation starters, and you'll be able to practice what Hebrew you have and the Hebrew we went over today in small groups, listening, speaking, correcting, helping each other out, and really practicing to make this your own. Wednesday's topic, not just about the news, what you think about the news, why is there hityakruyot? Why is there an increase in prices? But also, ech choschim kesef. How do we save money? Okay. With that, and I'm going to share it with you this app because I'm excited to try it out, and hopefully it will help all of us maybe save a little money with all these gzerot, these cutbacks and increases in prices. With that, I see we have a bunch of questions in the Q&A. I want to get started with those. Can yoker mechia be interpreted as inflation? No. We don't use that term for inflation. Inflation is inflatia. We use other terms than that for inflation. This is the rising cost of living or simply the cost of living, yoker mechia. I thought that kitzutzim was cutbacks. What does kitzutzim mean? So first off, the word is kitzutzim. Lekatzetz is also to cut. We have a lot of words in Hebrew that in English translate as to cut. Kitzutzim are cutbacks in the sense of if you have a budget and you need to cut things out of that. One of the things we didn't talk about is in the state budget, one of the reasons why we see all these increases and freezes, and we didn't even talk about all the different things that are affecting citizens. The state budget, a lot of things did not get kitzutzim, did not get cuts. There's a lot of budgetary things for the government that stayed as is. Whereas there's a lot of gzerot cutbacks in discounts and things like that citizens have to pay. We can talk about that on Wednesday for sure. But kitzutzim are cutbacks, as in you have a budget. That could be a state budget, that could be your home budget, that could be a business budget, and you need to make cuts. Cuts as in certain expenses that you have, hotzaot. That would be kitzutzim. Gzerot is more like, what are the things that are affecting me, not just in terms of kitzutzim cuts, but also increases. This is the term that they're using in the news, gzerot. Second. What is the reason for the double yud? As it seems like the pronunciation is the same as one yud. That is absolutely incorrect. So the reason, and we've talked about this before, and we have a whole class on how to spell in modern Hebrew. There are two yuds to make clear that it's a y sound. So let me open that up again. That is a great question. Thank you for the reminder here. In Hebrew, remember, we do not have letters. Our letters only represent consonants. They do not represent vowel sounds. In the case of lehit yakel, if I didn't have the nikud here, because we are all different levels at Cafe Oleh, and so I put in the dots and bars that indicate vowel sounds called nikud. If I took those out, okay, and I spelled it with just one yud, I could pronounce this word incredibly incorrectly. Not just incredibly, just incorrectly. Incorrect. That extra yud is what we call in Hebrew ema kriya. It helps us understand that we're supposed to pronounce this lehit yakil. It's not a holder for an elongated vowel, right? Instead, that y sound needs to be pronounced. That's why it has to be written there. When you are writing with nikud, it's often not included. Okay, I do both because we have a lot of people still learning to read Hebrew here. If you were to write this as you would normally without nikud, it would be two yuds. 100%. Okay. Back to the top. Is cheshbon also an accounting or reconciliation? Okay, great question. Cheshbon, the word cheshbon has the root, and I'm going to include the roots when we send this all out to you. Chet shin bet. Chet shin bet gives us a lot of words in Hebrew. It gives us the word lachshov, the verb lachshov, to think. Machshava is a thought. It's also used for the word philosophy. Machshev is a computer. Machshevon is a calculator. Chishuv is accounting. Lehit chashev is to take into consideration. And cheshbon means a bill or both is in any form of payment, right? Accounting is cheshbonaut, right? Accounting for. And reconciliation. We don't use this term for reconciliation. We have the term in Jewish thought, cheshbon nefesh, an accounting of one's soul, which we typically do in the months and weeks before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim. How do we account for everything we've done? What's the bill of our soul, literally, meaning what is included in our past year and what we've done? But that's not the word we use for reconciliation or anything from this root. We do, however, cheshbonaut, accounting, absolutely. How would I translate cheshbonit? Another word that comes from this, a receipt. Okay, different than a bill, just like there's a difference in English between bill and receipt. Cheshbon, bill, cheshbonit, receipt. What percent VAT did you pay last year? As I said before, 17%. As of January 1st, it is now 18%. When do you say achuz and when do you say achuzim? Great question. Achuz is percent, as in the singular. Achuzim is percent as in plural. It has to do with what number you're using, right? So if it's achuz achad, as in yesh aliyah, there is an increase, shel ma'am, of VAT, be'achuz achad, by 1%. It's going to be 1. But the moment it becomes more, you're going to increase it. So, for example, there was 3.5 achuzim, right? Something went up 3.5%. Anything more than that, you can use achuzim. Okay, but if it's achuz achad, 1%, it's only achuz. Are the taxes going up for all items and also the mom going up 18%? Okay, so folks, let me explain how VAT works in Israel. VAT is value-added tax. It's a consumption tax on almost anything in Israel with the exception of fruits and vegetables, personal items imported from abroad up to the value of $75 US, and anything bought in Eilat that is otherwise needs VAT, right? Remember, Eilat is a tax-free zone. So many people do their purchases down there. Obviously, you have to factor getting to Eilat and back. And you have a personal exemption of up to 75 US dollars on anything bought or shipped from abroad. So if you order something from Amazon or from iHerb or from any of the other really popular places abroad, so long as it's under $75 US, the value of it as written on the bill, you're exempt any time of the year. 18 or 70%, 17% or no percent, you're exempt from paying VAT. Everything else in Israel that isn't those three categories, fruits and vegetables, under $75 from abroad, and Eilat has come with an 18% VAT, right? That goes for hotel reservations, restaurant bills, appliances, toiletries, clothing, car, anything you're buying has a VAT attached to it in Israel. If VAT is increasing by 1%, why are expenses increasing by so much more? That's a great question. A lot of things have already been increasing in price. One of the, again, it's not necessarily covered in English, but there has been a wave of increase of prices throughout Israel in the last 14 and a half months, 15 months. If that isn't a clue why, folks, listen very carefully to the time frame I'm giving you. It's now 15 months, 15 and a half months. War has driven up prices. We not just have a lot of different expenses within Israel, a lot of things are not coming into Israel, and that drives up prices. So that's in addition to all the other global factors that involve why are prices expensive. But one thing you can definitely attribute it to is that ma'am goes up by 1% as of 5 days ago. Is the increase in Arnona different in different cities? That's a great question. So what I have read as of now, see a lot of questions here. Okay. So the increase in Arnona different in different cities. Some cities have tried to cap the total amount. Some cities are going along with it. That percentage I showed you, that's the maximum that a municipality can increase their Arnona, the Arnona by. Some have decided to do less. Some are doing the full amount. I haven't heard of anyone that exempting it altogether. Okay. Car expenses, what percentage increase is this? That again, that's only for buying electric cars. Do you know if income taxes also increase? No. What happened with income taxes is that your tax bracket is frozen. I can explain a little bit that more in Wednesday's class, but essentially, just like in other countries, your income tax is based on what you make before taxes, and we have brackets. And those brackets indicate how much you pay in income tax. They are frozen for the year, meaning that let's say you were making less money and therefore you are entitled, don't have to pay as much income tax. That's frozen, right? Just as the public sector salaries, especially in governmental and public sector, are frozen for everyone. Mas Haknasa, what they're called Mizgerot Mas Haknasa, the tax brackets are frozen, meaning that you aren't going to change either your tax status or your zikui. I can explain all that on Wednesday. It's very complicated, especially if you don't live here and you don't earn a salary. What about a housing cost, rental, or purchase? 18%, folks. 18% goes for everything, including rental, including purchases. Purchases for sure. In terms of housing costs, if you're paying ma'am, it goes up by 1%. That's on anything you're paying ma'am for. So is it better to say hakol mityaker rather than kol ha-mechirim olim? Great question. They both mean the same thing. Hakol mityaker, everything is getting expensive or more expensive. Great. And kol ha-mechirim olim means that all the prices are going up. Different language saying the same thing, but they're both all right. Kol hamechirim olim, all the prices are going up, but hakol mityaker is a little bit more sophisticated, just in terms of the sentence structure. Everything is getting more expensive. It's a great question. Both of them are great. To give us when our making aliyah perspective, do increases happen often, like once per year? No, folks, again, listen very carefully. If you don't think what I'm doing here, just like all the things we do in Cafe Oleh is in a bubble. There's a lot of things I'm sure you're consuming about Israel and reading about Israel on a regular basis. I love that I'm a major resource for some of you, but there's a lot more out there to consume. War. War changes economy and war changes prices. Okay, this is not a common thing to happen. It's a drastic thing that needs to happen. Some people would say it doesn't need to happen. Some people would say it needs to come from other places, but it's happening. And it has everything to do with the war. It has a lot of things with there are other factors, but the war is a major part. So no, don't expect it. It's been 17% for a very long time. Okay. For example, for those other things, those are new gzerot, right? They are new cutbacks or increases or things that we all now have to deal with. The way you speak about it makes it seem like a drastic change. It absolutely is. Do you know if the increases are temporary? They are set to take place, as I said, starting January 1st, which they did. How long they're going to last, I don't know. No one's really said. Some of these have to be automatically renewed and reviewed, have to be, manually reviewed. So I don't know. Is there a way I can get cost savings here? The way you said it is a little bit convoluted. You simply want to use the verb lachsoch. We're going to practice that on Wednesday. Lachsoch means to save money or time or effort or resources. It doesn't mean to save something like someone's life in any respect. It means to save something more tangible that isn't a life or death situation. We'll explain how to say, are there ways to get to save here? Great question. Cheschoni yoter, a more economical item. Great. Cheschoni is a great word we're going to talk about on Wednesday. Cheschoni is something that saves you, is saving in price. It's more economical, is a way that we'd say it in English, but it doesn't translate literally. Can you share Snaplist and how to use it? Yes, we'll send it in the description. I have yet to use it. It literally was talked about in the news 30 minutes ago, actually an hour ago. So I need to check as well, and I'll let you know if it works. Snaplist appears to be only in Hebrew. Folks, this is an app for saving money in Israel. It's going to be in Hebrew. Hence, you want to wait for me to read it, review it, and try to make up as much of a guide how to use it as possible. I love your enthusiasm. Wait for me on Wednesday, and I'll share it with you. So can stores decide to charge the extra 10% ma'am or choose not to? It sounds like you said they could choose. Some of them are choosing not to. I would say that's a very PR type move, right? If a grocery store, for example, that its claim to fame is it's about saving you money, they will maybe say, and some of them have already come out, we have decided to absorb the cost of the extra 1% and we will not be passing it on to the consumer. Check back in a few weeks, if not in a few months. I don't know how long they're going to be able to hold that. But there are some companies that have said that. There are some companies that have already changed their prices. There are some places that have already messed up and people are already complaining about the price. We're all going through this together. That I'm helping us go through it together also save us a little bit of anxiety when we go to the store and we see something's up with the prices. Lama hamila gezel yesh oto shoresh kemo ligzol v'gzerot. Why does the word gezel, carrot, have the same root as ligzol, to cut with scissors, and gzerot? That's a great question. I'm happy to do a little etymology deep dive. Why carrots are the same word as cuts? I imagine it has something to do with how carrots were first cultivated, but don't hold me to that. We say me'achuz for 100. So we talked about this a few weeks ago when we talked about numbers. Me'achuz is an expression. In Hebrew, in very formal Hebrew, anything above the number 20 goes singular. That's not often held, but you will only say mea chutz. That's an expression. 100%, you would only say mea chutz. Usually for the full tens, you only count them as singular, even though it's obviously plural. How you say exempt, ptol. Ptol. So what's important is if you're in Israel as a tourist, many things are exempt from ma'am. Atem ptorim. You are exempt ma'am, from VAT, but that's only for tourists, not for locals. Is there a difference between Kabbalah and Cheshbonit? Cheshbonit is used for tax purposes. We use Cheshbonit as a tax. The difference is only taxes. Kabbalah is a receipt like you get at a store, even at a restaurant, but Cheshbonit, if you are a business owner or you need something for business expenses, you're going to ask for a Cheshbonit. There is a difference in terms of the data that's on it. Someone is complimenting me on my hairstyle. Thank you very much. I cut my own hair. Another way to lachsoch kesef, cut your own hair if you can. But thank you. Toda. Services are typically charged 17%. Will that increase? Folks, 18% ma'am. The whole board. That's what I'm trying to explain in this class. Sorry to joke there, but it is serious. Everything that was 17% is now 18%. Everything that gets ma'am in Israel, VAT, is now 18%. No more 17%, only 18%. That is 1% increase on all goods in Israel, unless the company has stated, we are absorbing that 1% cost. I did not say Eilat is no longer a VAT city, free city. I said there are 3 exceptions to VAT in Israel. Fruits and vegetables, $75 purchase from abroad, and Eilat. Those are the only 3 things exempt for Israeli citizens in paying ma'am in the state of Israel. Is the lack of tourism putting burden on local citizens for taxes? 100%. Tourism is a major source of income for Israel, and that it's down is a big thing. Is that one of the causes? Yes, it's not one of the major ones, but it is a significant one for a huge industry. It's not just for actual, think of everything from airport taxes to hotels, restaurants, tour guides, national parks, everything that people would otherwise be buying as tourists. That's a major part of it. Is there a difference between hakol yakar and hakol beyoker? Yes, yakar is the adjective, yoker is the noun. Hakol yakar is a better way to say it. Everything is expensive. Because it's expensive as a noun, as an adjective, hakol yakar. Aren't gzerot decrees? Gzerot are decrees in biblical and religious Hebrew. In modern Hebrew, it means cutbacks. Great question. Do taxes ever go down in Israel or only up? They do go down. It once was 18%. It went down to 17%. It has changed throughout the years, just like other taxes will have changed throughout the year as well. Absolutely. Does Amazon charge shipping to Israel? If not, why isn't everyone buying multiple small purchases from Amazon all the time? First off, not everything ships from Amazon to Israel. This is something you learn very quickly when you make Aliyah. Not everything is either available in Israel nor able to be shipped to Israel. Remember, folks, again, war. There's a reason why things are delayed coming to Israel, where we don't have as many things in stock, and not everything is flying to Israel or shipping to Israel. And as a result, it's hard to get things sourced here. So I can't speak to everything about Amazon, but in general, shipping from abroad, purchasing from abroad online can be more difficult. Do we have to pay VAT taxes if taking Ulpan classes as a tourist? That's a great question. I don't know. Ulpan is typically not for tourists. It is only for Olim, but if they allow you as a tourist to come in, first off, welcome. Second, I don't know. You would have to speak to them directly about that. But in general, VAT is an exempt, tourists are exempt from paying VAT. It does have to get to a certain amount. For example, hotel rooms, they will ask you very pointedly for your passport, because even if you are visiting from abroad or you have Israeli citizenship, you must pay VAT at a hotel. That's a great example. Other ones, I honestly don't know. As an Oleh, it will take a while to get our Teudat Zehut. So does the mom apply until we get our citizenship papers? Folks, when you go to a supermarket right now and the prices are up, they're not going to ask you for your passport, nor are you going to, for lack of a better term, nickel and dime over a 1% increase. If you do, I'm going to let you fill in the blank there, but please don't do that. This affects everyone. There are certain things that will cost on it. Those things in the immediate future are things like food, and that's what we're going to talk about on Wednesday. That's what this app is about, also saving you costs on food. But you're not going to be able to go to a local grocery store, show your passport, and get your VAT exempt. It doesn't work like that, just like it doesn't work like that in other countries. Can someone let me know how I look up or spell Emma Kriya? Hi, you can ask me that. You can ask me directly. M HaKriya. M as in mother, Kriya as in reading. We've covered this before in our grammar classes about how to spell in Hebrew. My suggestion is to go to our YouTube page. Once again, type in Cafe Oleh in either Hebrew or how to spell in Hebrew, and we do a whole section on Emot HaKriya, the plural of it. Excuse me. Do retirement accounts cost for how do I sign up for the ones? In my experience, things that sent to Israel are stolen. Yes, folks, in addition to actually, I'm going to stop here before I answer any more questions. First off, Todah Rabah, thank you all for joining. Wednesday's class, like I said, we're going to practice using these expressions and this news to talk about how do we save money. Tips for sharing and also for getting from our fellow friends. Hopefully, I'll find out about this app and some other apps about saving you money. So it's a great reason to join. Next week's class, we're going to do something hopefully a little bit more lighthearted than this, which is slang. We're going to go through some latest words in slang, but also some classics that you should know. And we're going to give you some examples how to use them. Obviously, next Wednesday's class, not this one. Next Wednesday, we'll be practicing them together. We have a whole bunch of new classes coming up through through January and through February. Everything from, I'll actually look at it right now. What do we have coming up? We have everything from how to complain, always important, how to recognize and create new words, empowering us all how to use the language to our benefit, land of Israel, ahead of Tu B'Shvat, volunteering, ecology, environment, foods that may be new to you in Israel. It's totally all right to be floored by new things that you've never eaten before in Israel. We've only heard about here. We're going to not only discuss them, but also how to use them. And one of my favorite topics, and I know one of yours, I'm going to be calling healthcare for everyone. Tongue in cheek, but very much the name of that lesson. Until then, we are unfortunately out of time. But we have lots of questions here. I know a lot of you have a lot of questions about the financial news. First off, you can email us if it has to do with Hebrew. Also, check out the Nefesh B'Nefesh website. They have a lot on there about creating a household budget, about how to save money, about a lot of financial advisors and resources that are available to you as Olim. Definitely check out their website as well. Until I see you all either in this Wednesday's class or next Monday's Cafe Oleh class, Todah Rabah. Thank you all for joining. This class will go up on YouTube along with all the different websites, all the spreadsheets I showed you. We'll send them all to you in the next day or two. Until then, Todah Rabah and Lehitraot. See you all very soon.